All right, hi folks. This is another Conscious Mosaic Geeky Friends Discuss video, and I'm Ing Venning as always. And I don't know if you can tell, but I'm very appropriately attired for this discussion of the witch. This is with me is Malachi Simpson, who is back from the Geeky Friends Discuss Batman.
Hello.
And Alex McVey, whom you have seen in the Batman discussion, Exorcist discussion, Fallen discussion. What am I forgetting? At least one other video. So there will be links, or you can look on the Conscious Mosaic page. So for that. But tonight we are discussing The Witch. I don't know what you guys thought about this one overall. I really liked this one. I felt like every main character, every main actor had a really difficult, intense scene that I felt like they did pretty well. What did you guys think about it in general?
Holy shit, that was now, if I were to be honest with you guys, I'm not one for horror movies. I just hate them. And I gotta say, the last horror movie that I saw before this one is Stephen King's 1408. And I kind of liked that movie. I feel like I like this movie more because I'm a history buff. I'm a huge American history buff. I just really loved the story of the historical context that it was in. The time of the uprising Puritans and the Pilgrims and the burning times and the Salem witch trials later on, and it's just such a really amazing. It's just such a really amazing story to put into that historical period and that type of context.
And we'll come right back to the history, but Alex, do you want to give an overall thoughts on the movie?
This is actually my second time seeing it.
Okay. I think this was my fourth time seeing it, but I really liked it, so I didn't mind.
Yeah, I liked it the first time I saw it, and I still like it. Yeah. I guess you could say it's my kind of horror. There's not any of that jump scare.
It's more cerebral horror, which I tend to like a lot better than just the kind of jump scares or the gore fueled horror things. Yeah. And the time period this was set in was an amazing part of the film, an integral part of the film. I took a class on burning times and witch hunts and things years ago, and I can tell you they really drew from period documents, the Malleus Maleficarum, court documents, folk tales. They really looked at the period and what people believed in that period. Did you also, either of you, want to say more about the history or?
So based on the history, it of course takes place in the 1630s 1630s New England, when where the Puritans are really setting up their government to be the very strict very strict ass Christian government type thing that they're doing, and so we all know about the Salem witch trials, right? And how it's so important to American history, in the way of just how should I say this? In the way of how history like how history is happening, and how these people are living their lives during these really trying times, which basically started from like a couple preteen girls started acting weird, and people start to take notice and say wait a minute, these girls are look like they're practicing the behavior and practice of witchcraft, and became this whole mass hysteria amongst the whole village of Salem and Essex County as well. And one of the people that that if you've ever read Arthur Miller's the Crucible,
yeah,
it's a really good play. It's a really good retelling.
We'll have to discuss it sometime.
Yeah, it's a really good retelling of the Salem witch trials. Some details are altered from what actually happened, and some of the people's age were altered but let's just tell a story. It's the same thing with Hamilton too. Anyway, Hamilton, I love Hamilton. Anyway,
another one we'll have to discuss.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And so anyway, one of the people involved, some of the people that are involved are Giles and Martha Corey. So a little bit of a backstory on Giles. If you don't know about Giles Corey, I suggest you check his story out. So Giles Corey is a normal everyday farmer in Salem, and Giles and his wife Martha are caught in the mass hysteria, and they're enjoying it, and they're enjoying it. They're like sitting in the back. They're like sitting in the back having their popcorn, like in the courtroom, while people are being convicted of doing the practice of witchcraft, and eventually Martha gets arrested and convicted of being a witch, and Giles is like, hey, and Giles confesses that, I was just caught in the mass hysteria of the whole thing. I was caught in the drama of the whole thing, and all that shit, and everyone starts to question if Giles is actually a witch, and which everyone thinks he does, which everyone thinks he is. And so he's taken into trial and gets convicted of witchcraft, and the sheriff of Essex County, Massachusetts, where Salem is located, Sheriff George Corwin, has given Giles the sentence of pena forte et dure, which basically means that they're going to lay you to the ground and put a wooden board on you and stack rocks on top of them, and for the next 2 days, Giles's chest is being pressed, by these huge boulders that the collective of Salem has collected, and by that time, and around that time, it became so bad for Giles that his eyes were bulging out of his head, and his tongue was sticking out of his mouth, and it was so terrifying that Giles, that Sheriff Corwin had to had to poke his tongue and eyes back in with his cane. And Corin's like, why don't you confess to being a witch, you bitch? And Giles, his last words, his last words after 2 days of saying, more weight, I can take it. I can take more rocks. That the biggest rock you got. Giles finally says, God damn you, George Corwin. God damn you all. God damn all of Salem. I curse all of you. I curse all of you. And those were supposedly his last words. That I curse all of Salem, and I curse you, Sheriff George Corwin, and dies September 19th, 1692. Excuse me, and it's 4 years later. Sheriff and George Corwin is still the sheriff of Essex County, and mysteriously dies of a heart attack. This wouldn't be even discovered until the late 70s. Until the late 70s, when another sheriff, Robert Cahill, suffered a heart attack. He survived, and he's like, I gotta check out this curse on Giles Corey, and so he found the Essex County Sheriff's records, and he found that every single sheriff up to Cahill has died of a stroke or a heart attack, and it became so bad that in 1991 the Sheriff's Department of Essex County moved out of Salem to get the curse over with, and it's just such an interesting story, and I'm pretty sure some of you are saying, wait, what about Giles Corey himself? Where are his remains? They are in Salem. They're still in Salem, and it is said that his ghost is said to roam around his graveyard, like sometime before a bad event happens to Salem, and it is pretty evident that his ghost was said to be seen before the Great Fire of Salem in 1914, and some would say that the curse of Giles would be a part of that sighting.
Giles Corey is still salty after 400 years.
Yeah. And that's it's really interesting because this period that we have. I mean, even though the witch takes place before this, really the Salem witch trials. A lot of people think that there were more witches that were persecuted and burned during the Middle Ages, but it actually reached a peak in the Renaissance. It was happening in the Middle Ages, but it reached a peak in the Renaissance, and during this period, and in America especially. So many of the themes from the witch come out in these later things. So like in the story you're talking about, like Giles Corey, we have like psychology versus witchcraft. We have issues of identity. We have issues of community and whether or not people are kind to each other or they persecute each other or fling accusations. Later in the Crucible, we do have some different tellings of events, but we have this issue of identity, like John Proctor's obsession with his name. Leave me my name. I've given you my soul, but leave me my name. Is a really interesting kind of resonance of that in the Scarlet Letter. I was thinking when I watched The Witch and I saw William's confession at night when he's saying like, I've done these horrible things. It was my sin of pride, but redeem my family. Don't let my children be damned. That night confession reminded me of Arthur Dimmesdale's in Scarlet Letter as well. So these are themes that are very important to the nature of like what it means to be American. That'll come up, these and others in the discussion of the film as well. Yeah. I also wanted to say a quick word. Now, did you? I was curious. I don't know much about fashion. I've seen a couple of like documentaries where people were supposed to go back and be. I think one is set in sometime in the 17th century, anyway. So I have seen similar garb. Do you guys know if this is accurate costuming or
Yeah.
I assume it is. If
Yeah.
they were that meticulous about the sources, the folktales and court documents and writings and things, I imagine they would have gotten that right. So, but I just kind of want to throw that out. The music I thought was very interesting. The first music we hear is, I believe it's on period instruments because the strings at the time they're not quite as refined and they're not quite as piercing. So I think those are period instruments. They remind me of like Dowland, the Seven Tears or something. So that definitely is rooted in period music. But then especially as we see the witches, we get a lot more like wailing and cacophony and disruption. And so the music comes from that period, but it's very much almost dismantled.
I would be interested to know if you noticed any like tritones in
I wish Patrick Brown were with us right now because he's the resident music expert and he could almost certainly tell you. I had not been listening for that, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Because that was historically considered like the devil's
Do you know
sound.
if that was considered that during that period, or was it more later in the 19th century, or
it was.
did it start back then?
It started back. It started all the way back in the Middle Ages and continued through at least the 16th. That's why rock music has the tritone in it.
Right. Yeah, there were a lot of rock musicians that chose to use that, right?
Yeah.
And not even rock music, like Paganini chose to do that back in the 19th century too, which some people see him as kind of an early rock musician, but not really playing rock music. So yeah, that would be very interesting. Maybe I can ask Patrick about that and we can append a video to this or something like that. I would also want to listen for other liturgy like the Dies Irae or other well-known music, especially if it's from Mass or Requiem settings or things like that. So I'll have to look into that. I don't know as much about it. Anything else about historical sources or overall or anything like that?
Atun Shea, if we've gotten anything wrong, please send the Witchfinder General after
Please
us.
do.
Please do, because we
Please do.
are very big fans and we don't mind it all being corrected. And so yeah, if you ever do, you're awesome. And I'll put a link to you.
Please do fact check us, please.
Yes, and I will put a link to you as well. So last quick question for this section of the video: favorite characters?
I would have to say the Witch of the Wood and Black Phillip in his human form.
Oh yeah. Oh shit.
He's got the smolder.
He's got the
He's
smolder.
got the
That he
smolder.
does. That he does. Yes. Yes.
Oh my god, yeah. Oh my god, yeah. I love Black Phillip in human form, but that's pretty much it.
As is almost always the case with movies, the non-human characters. So Fowler's probably my favorite. I like the bunny, which technically that's the witch shapeshifted. Somewhat, but yeah, Black Phillip somewhat as well, and Flora. Among the human cast, Thomason. I really associate with Thomason that sort of being pushed in the direction of sedition or rebellion, and that being misunderstood, being ostracized by others, being that outsider. Obviously, I've got a TS t-shirt on, so I identify with some of that stuff. So that would be mine. Yeah.